Council, we are in our regular council session, Tuesday, April the 10th, 7 o'clock. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated? There are no addendums tonight. Councillor Tom, Councillor Kim, any comments or questions on that? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillors, declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof, please. I will be pulling item R10 under the consent agenda for separate. Thank you, Mr. Well, I was going to do it when I got there, but yeah, thank you. I will be pulling R10. Thank you. Got that, Mr. Clerk? Thank you very much. Council, I would like to start our meeting with a moment of silence in memory of the tragedy with the Humboldt Brockers. If you would please join me. Thank you. Thank you very much. There was 29 young hockey players and staff on that bus, and 29 families forever changed. For those of you who may have the opportunity, Regional Council will be doing a recognition before Council, Regional Council on Thursday morning at 8:45 in the Great Hall. And Thursday is also National Jersey Day. Started by a mother, I think, in BC. And so we'll be doing that at the town of Aurora. We'll be doing that at Regional Council, so the region of York will be doing that as well. And I encourage anyone who's watching or maybe here tonight going back to their office, if they have a hockey jersey, I think that'd be a great show of support for those families. We start with presentations. We have no presentations this evening. We have no delegations. We will move to our consent agenda. And once again, Mr. Clerk, I will ask that C1 R10 be pulled forward. Thank you. Councillors, anything else? Seeing none, may I please have a... Councillor Perry?
Just for a recorded vote, I'm not looking for a debate, but...
I'm sorry, Councillor Perry?
C1, R2.
C1, R2, you want to record? Okay. Move that forward. Okay. Councillor Maracas, so is that what you were? Okay. Thank you. In that case, seeing nothing else, we have R2 and R10, which are being brought forward. Councillor Maracas, I'm sorry.
C1, R1.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing nothing else, may I please have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Tom. Second, please, Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Oh, using your tablets, I'm sorry. Councillor Gartner, please. And Councillor Tom. Oh, they were switched, that's why. So can't. It was typed, it was set up incorrectly. Can you reset and we'll do it again, Linda, please? And Councillor Tom, if you could use his tablet right now. Can you reset that, Linda? Thank you. Can you void that? Doesn't look like it. It's great. Linda? Using your tablets, please, Councillor. Councillor Gartner? Thank you. We've moved R1, R2, and R10 forward. Councillor Maracus, you moved R1.
Move as is.
Thank you. Second, please. Councillor Perry, thank you. Councillor Maracus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I didn't really need to pull it. I could have just made a comment to it, but I apologize. It's pulled now. So, it was identified through the auditor that the project was mismanaged, lacked the effective leadership to bring it to proper completion. That would be under budget. But I'm confident moving forward that our CAO is going to be implementing those necessary changes and make sure that any project moving in the future is going to have the proper project management in place. And I'm also confident that we will have in the town the effective leadership needed for our future projects.
Any other comments on that? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a great report. I think it was money well spent, and it was part of the premiums that we spend to York Region anyway, so I'm glad that we were able to use some of the premiums that we have been forwarding to them. And the auditors certainly, I think I was comforted in that they were qualified, and they certainly stated as much. I think I counted 14 times that they were CPAs, and that they were had forensic experience 9 times. So they certainly convinced me that they were certainly qualified. I was also, I did feel comfortable in that they assured us that what was spent was essentially what would have been spent anyway. The only thing is we probably would have had less white hair, and that the process was more optically more volatile than it should have been. It did. They did confirm what we suspected all along, which was lack of project management. And as Councillor Maracus stated, we're certainly comfortable, and we feel good knowing that there will be a project management process in the future, so that these things don't happen. And I think part of being a growing community is that one thing I always pray for every day is that God give me wisdom, but a lot of times wisdom happens when there's suffering, and that's what experience does, and that's what happens when you're a growing community, is that there are some pitfalls and there are mistakes, but that's part of growing up, whether as an individual or in our case, as a community. So this is wisdom, and that's part of where we're going, and we're going to go to a better place. And as the auditor had mentioned last week, this is something that's almost every municipality have gone through in terms of their growing pains as well. We're no different, and we try our best to look at our municipal brothers and sisters and ensure that we don't make the same mistakes, but we are municipalities. We are a municipality after all, so we are going to suffer some of the same pitfalls. So overall, I was pleased, and I'm glad that we're headed in the right direction. And again, the premium was well spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks. Sorry, I thought Councillor Gartner was next. Within the report, it speaks to the development of project methodologies and being applying it to major capital construction projects. But each year, we engage in a number of capital projects with varying costs. Some of them is still in the millions of dollars. Are there lessons that we can take out of this and the development through those methodologies that we can apply to all of our capital projects, not just the major ones? Through you to Mr. Nazarosny.
Sir.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, certainly there's lessons at the general level beyond just the simple requirement for good project management techniques. But a lot of the things that are sort of that quickly fall out of the process are also part of good project management. So I think that we have to do a better job of communicating the status of these projects in a clearer way. So one of the things that the auditor found is that most of the things in some way at some time were reported, but the way that they were reported and the frequency that they were reported left gaps in the understanding that the council and the community would have had as to where the project really was. And so between communication and financial monitoring, I think those are two key things that even without a rigorous project management system, we certainly want to make some big changes in just how we manage the project from a financial and a communications perspective. But as I said, all of those things are part of a robust project management strategy, which we are also developing. So.
Great, because I think that, as you said, the rigor needs to be applied no matter what the size of the project, be it large or be it small. I would hope that we would do the same thing to ensure that taxpayers' money is well looked after. Thank you.
Councillor Kim for a second time.
Yes, thank you. One comment that I forgot to mention was that I think, one thing that we need to have is better meeting minutes. I mean, when I look at the Financial Monitoring Task Force, there were no meeting minutes to that. There was no editorial additions or comments on the figures. I know with the Mayor and Councillor Thompson and I serving on the FAC committee, we make comments, we do oversight on the numbers, and quite often 5-10% of the numbers change when they come to council because of, hopefully the value add that we bring to the table with the help of staff. And there are meeting minutes that are attached to it. But what comes to council is also editorial notes in terms of some of the comments that we have made at the FAC, and we didn't see any of that when the monitoring task force was on it. So I think from a process perspective, I think we need to have some more detailed notes and meeting minutes, and that's in any kind of committee that's tasked to do anything, we need to have someone to make good meeting minutes, and even whether it be the library meeting minutes or Heritage or AAC, I noticed that when I read the meeting minutes, I really don't know what exactly happened, even though we do have meeting minutes. I know that our solicitor made some comments, I think, sometime in the past about why it's very generic, but maybe we should look at being a little bit more detailed so that we actually know by reading it what actually happened. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, and I agree with Councillor Kim, but it seems to me in our procedural bylaw, it says that our minutes have to be without any
comment.
editorial comment. So if we wanted, how could we change that if we wanted, especially if it's a special task force, how could we change it so that there would be a more fulsome reporting of what happened and what was said at the meeting?
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Don. Through you, the procedure bylaw and the municipal act, in fact, do both include that without note or comment. So those are official minutes. I think on a more more or less formal task force things, there would be an opportunity to provide more. I guess, words and help for the councillors on what happened in the minutes. So I think, in terms of reference, there might be somewhere to state that, but it is the without note or comment applies specifically to council and advisory committee minutes.
Thank you. Good to know.
Councillor Marcus for a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our CAO. Doug, what will we be doing to ensure that in future projects that items are not removed that are needed to artificially keep the project within budget?
Sir.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, The reality is, in a large project, there's always decisions that are made throughout the course of the project that one could interpret as removing something from the project. So I don't want to say that we'll design a system that will ensure that never happens. Sometimes those are good decisions made as a result of the contractors or other consultants involved that come up with an alternative way to design that area, or some shortcuts they can make to save some money, and so you take something out. Other things, for example, one of the things that the audit noted was that from the time that the building was designed to the time that it was being built, our methods of our materials we use for winter control changed, and we could have lowered the roof. So you don't want to. You want to have a system that can compensate for those kinds of things, even though the project has started, and even though maybe a different outcome was anticipated. I think what's different about this one, and I think where I would want to have systems in place, is to make sure that the order of the magnitude of those changes is not materially changing what the functionality of what was envisioned when the project started. And that is the role of the project management team. That is the role of a well-scoped project and a project manager, to make sure that at the end of the day, all of the services that were to be delivered as a result of that asset being built can in fact be built. And that's where we fall a little short with some of the things that were taken out of this project in the interest of saving money. So certainly there'll be safeguards for those, like I say, those quantum changes that have an impact on the ability to deliver the intended service, but you want to keep lots of flexibility, though, in a large project especially.
Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Nanarasi. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, change orders are part of our construction, and so we wouldn't want to eliminate any of those, because we understand that there would be a need for some changes every once in a while within a project. I think that where the problem lies is when this council or residents see items that were initially in the project and that were removed come back a year later and say, well, now we actually need it, and the price tag has gone up because it's a year later. So those are the types of things but I'm glad to hear that you're saying that we are going to look at putting some safeguards, and that's what the project management team on any future project will look at ensuring hopefully doesn't happen again. So I appreciate that.
Okay, Councilor Maracas. Any other speakers? The comments are well taken. It's unfortunate that we did not have the project management group in place first in terms of capital delivery. And I would think that perhaps working in conjunction with the region to see how they do their capital delivery management, they're very good at it. They do some pretty substantial projects, to see what we can learn from them. As Councillor Thompson mentioned, we do a number of capital delivery projects now that are handled regularly and done very well. So it's a case of scope, a case of scale, and a case of us understanding those differences and looking at what needs to be done up front as opposed to after the fact. So I want to thank you, Mr. Nader-Rosny, for organizing that. I think it was a beneficial exercise, and I believe that we will be that much smarter going forward. Council, using your tablets, please. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Item R2, Councilor Maracas? Oh, Councilor Perry, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I pointed out last week, I wasn't really sure how I was going to vote. I was fine with the proceeding to
Could I have a motion first, sir?
I won't put it on the floor.
Okay, then I'll come back to you, all right? Councillor Tom, Councillor Maracas. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was fine with it being the recommendation for council, but I wasn't sure how I was going to vote. I just wanted to justify that I won't be voting for it, and the reason for that, as I stated last week, I think we need to collect more data to know if there's a problem or not. I recognize that this will be collecting data, but to make a decision before the data is collected, I'm not 100% comfortable with that position. So I'm happy to vote against this now and see how the pilot works its way throughout the next year.
Thank you. Councillor Maracas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. fully appreciate and understand Councillor Perry's opinion and thought process, but to me, I think this comes down to a simple question and answer. Do you believe that bylaw has a right to enter onto your private property without your consent? Yes or no? I think that's what it comes down to. Should they need to get a warrant? It's regardless of how much data you get and analyze and look at it, that's the same question that's going to be asked and that you're going to have to answer. And so my answer is no, you should get a warrant if you don't have that consent, and that's what's in front of us, and I'm in favor of it.
Other speakers, please. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to Councillor Maracas, I'm not sure if it's that simple, whether it's about you feel comfortable allowing bylaw into your property or not. It's almost, it's like saying, do you believe in giving up some of your freedoms for the overall safety of the public? I'm willing to do that. So it's hard to go for one side or the other, and I'm sure we can probably go back and forth, but I understand where Councillor Maracas is coming from. I'm for the motion, and this is a one-year pilot, and I think that's a key thing here. During those 12 months, staff have outlined some key facts that they're going to be collecting, and collecting the information is going to be hugely important in collecting the facts and whether we're going to continue on with this indefinitely or not. And I'm sure Aurora, being the leader it is, and we're going to be looked at by other municipalities to see whether this will work or not. I'm curious as well, and so that's the reason why I'm all for this. I know it might be painful for staff, but it's going to be a 12-month experiment or project that's going to be well worthwhile. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Leeuwen, currently, can you remind us again, how long does it take to obtain a search warrant, please?
Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest, it depends on the workload of the JP. We have 2 intake courts, and they prioritize how they process the search warrants based on their own workload. Mm-hmm. So it could take a couple of days, it could take a few weeks. It's an unknown.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor?
And I'd be also very much interested in terms of what staff already wrote down in the report, is that what evidence will be lost by that huge time frame if it does take 1 week or 2 weeks. And also, lastly, if staff could also include just the response by the court system in terms of what's their response to us asking them for a warrant, because I think how they react to us and their service levels to us versus other requests from other municipalities for different purposes. I mean, I'd be curious as to whether the reception is negative so that it would impair us from getting at it in a more timely fashion or not. So I think that's important as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I'd just like to make it clear, and I think probably communications will, that we're still going to be entering properties should there be an emergency situation, should staff perceive it to be a hazard or a safety issue. So hopefully communications can send out that message and make it clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. And I do believe it comes down to a question of property rights, with the caveat that, Ms. Van Leeuwen, if something untoward, that's not the right word, but if something is happening that you need to take action, that you have that capability. Is that correct? No one can hear you nodding your head.
To you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Thank you very much. Using your tablets, please. All in favor of the motion on the floor. And that passes 7-1. Thank you, Council. Councillor Thompson, if I may pass the chair to you, I will excuse myself from the table for the next item, R10.
Sandra's here. You want to pass to Sandra? Sandra's here now.
Sorry. Oh,
She's here.
So is that what's happening? R10.
that's why I
Okay.
was passing it to Councillor Thompson, because I talked to him
Hey.
first. Councillor Humphreys, may I pass the chair to you for R10? I'm excusing myself from the vote.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Mayor
very
Daw,
much.
no problem. Okay, on to agenda item R10. May I, Councillor Tom moved it. Councillor Thompson second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Or use your tablets? And opposed? Oh, no, you do it on your tablets. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, let's calculate it. And I'm keeping the chair, Mayor Daw? No, I'm kidding. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll pass the chair back to you.
It's just like a well-oiled
Kinda like
machine,
this.
isn't it?
I kind of like this, actually, yeah. No, I'm
Thank
kidding.
you, Councillor Humphreys. We'll move to notices of motion, please. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure how long it,
Move, second.
move
Thank
it
you.
as
Is there a
is.
second, please? Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Councillor Gartner, back to you.
Thank you. I'm not sure how long it was that Mr. Peter Parasol came to the podium and was talking about draining pools and hot tubs. And I actually have no idea what, I have really no idea if it went to the Environmental Advisory Committee or not, but it just it did. Oh, thank you. Could I, through Mr. Mayor, ask Councillor Perry what his recollection of where it was supposed to go from there?
Councillor Perry?
So it's actually come twice in the Environmental Advisory Committee. The first time in our first term, or my first term, and the second time under Chair Marakis of the Environmental Advisory Committee earlier in this term. So I do recall that it came, there was a recommendation made to council. It passed, and I think Councilor Marakis will refresh my memory as well.
Councillor Marakis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so when it came to Environmental Advisory Committee, the recommendation was to put forward an education campaign through the town, and we approved that recommendation here at council, and that's what we did. Is a campaign went out to educate the public on where they can discharge the pool water, how they can, the proper, so everything about it and the proper ways of doing it, and that's the way we decided to go about it for this time.
Thank you. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And my recollection is that, well, I could only tell you my feedback from residents. That would have been for the fall season. Nobody seems to really be aware of it. And I'm going to be asking staff for information, but it's very important. We're at a time in the world where we have to do whatever we can to protect the environment. And I've checked both our bylaw and the region's bylaw, and it doesn't mention this specific issue. So perhaps, Mr. Muno, could you speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct, Councilor Gardner. Our sewer bylaw is silent on discharge of pool water.
Well, that's a fulsome answer, Mr. Muno. There's something that is called neutralization of water. Could you please tell council what that means?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is, based on some of the information that we received a couple of years ago, was that you can reduce the chemical concentrations in the pool water, the chlorine and the bromine, I think, provided you stop adding those chemicals to the pool. And after 7 days, you will neutralize those chemicals, and it is then safe to discharge the water, onto the property or directly into the storm sewer. But you do need to. It is recommended that you do neutralize those chemicals, and there is a procedure that you'd have to follow before you actually discharge the water.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. I would ask council if we can amend our, I think it's called the storm sewer bylaw. I could be wrong on that. But if we could amend it so that we specifically mention what people can and can't do with respect to draining pools and hot tubs. And I do think it's going to be a matter of continuing education, but I also think it's important to have it in the bylaw.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be in favor of this motion. I think it's important for us to look at addressing this. I know that other municipalities like Mississauga they've set some regulatory measures in place in regards to pool discharge. Like I said, I'm in favor. I look forward to seeing what staff come up with and present to us in a bylaw, and I'm looking forward to that and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dale. I'm in favor of it too. I'm in favor of it when we approved practically the exact same thing in 2016. Mr. Ramuno came forward with a report on swimming pool discharge, and it talked about phase 1 being a public education, but phase 2 also talked about revising the sewer bylaw. And within that report, there were a number of best practice guidelines from other municipalities. And so I guess my question through you to Mr. Ramuno is, did we never do phase 2 and revise that sewer bylaw as per the report in 2016?
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the sewer bylaw wasn't amended, and I believe some of the information that we did release back in 2016, it did make reference to one option would be to discharge the pool water directly into the sanitary sewer system. And I think we did realize that there is a complication there with respect to how homeowners can actually do that, running a line into their home. So I think it's probably a good time to revisit the how and the best approach to discharge of pool water. So we will do some additional investigation, and I think next step would also be to report back to council with the suggested amendments to our current municipal sewer bylaw.
And that's great. Perhaps when you do come back with a future report, you can reference the one in 2016 and perhaps even include again those best management practices and recommended guidelines from the various municipalities, as well as, I guess it's a real thing, Pool and Hot Tub Council of Canada. That's what it says.
Councillor Humphreys, please.
Through you, Mayor Daw, and just to confirm again through you to Mr. Ramuno, so we don't have any type of bylaw on how to discharge water from swimming pools, because I have some neighbors that believe they do. We do, which is good.
Mr. Ramuno?
I just want to confirm that again, because they believe they have strict policies to get their water discharged by a company.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I mean, our current bylaw does not speak to specifically, where or how to discharge pool water or hot tub water. It speaks in general terms with respect to not discharging any inappropriate substances directly into the sanitary or storm sewer. So our bylaw doesn't speak to discharge of pool water. Again, a couple of years ago when we did report out, we did issue and prepare some some just educational pamphlets with some recommendations, and back then, I think the
I remember.
recommendation was to, discharge, rather than discharging it into the storm sewer or onto your lot, to discharge it into the sanitary sewer system. But I think we realize that there are some challenges posed for those residents to try and attempt to discharge it that way directly into their home, into the sanitary sewer outlet.
No, sure. Thank you very much, Ms. Bruno. I think that's what it was. We did a good job of communicating safe ways of discharging water, and they assumed that was I really like this, and I totally support this bylaw. I mean, this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Mr. Ramuno. Marco, how would we regulate people on well and septic?
Mr. Muno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, my only, just off the top of my head, I mean, considering some of those lots are a little larger, they do have more opportunities to discharge it directly, provided they neutralize the chemicals that discharge it directly onto their property. I mean, provided it doesn't impact their neighbors, but they do have a larger lot to work with. Within town, it's a bit more of a challenge, obviously. But no, it's something we'll investigate that as well.
Councillor?
And through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen, Taysha, for some reason, the dollar figure of 80,000 comes to mind in terms of penalties.
50.
Does that does that ring in your mind as well?
If I may, Councillor Perry, in the brochure that was printed, it was a fine of up to $50,000, which is a direct quote from the sewer bylaw, I believe.
Provincial offenses.
Provincial offenses, excuse me. Ms. Van Leeuwen? Not wanting to steal your thunder. Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, fine of up to $50,000 would be something that's established in the bylaw and under the authority to which the bylaw was enacted. The fines would be imposed by the courts.
Councillor Perry?
I don't see merit in going down this road. My parents have a pool. The condo I live in has a pool. From a practical standpoint, for residents in Aurora who are lucky enough to have pools like I was growing up, there are some big problems with regulating that pipes are going to have to be going in as well. It's something that we've talked about. That go straight to the sewer lines. There are some issues. I think the public awareness campaign is a great issue. I think finding a way to help neutralize the chemicals is a great thing that we can do from a communication standpoint. But I hesitate to overregulate this, and personally myself, I don't think it's a massive problem. So I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any other speakers for the first time on this item, please? It was indeed $50,000, and it struck me as a tad excessive that we would fine someone $50,000.
But it's a maximum.
Well, and the $50,000 comes from the sewer bylaw, and if you happen to interfere with the sewer system, I think that's a perfectly acceptable fine. I think, like I said, it might be a tad excessive for someone discharging pool water. I have no problems with looking at how we might do this. I think you have to look at it from an engineering perspective. Wastewater systems work by gravity. If you pump in your pool pump, which is anywhere from a horse to a 2-horsepower pump, what kind of issues could you affect there? Do you have backflow preventer valves that might blow out? I think there's a lot of some engineering work anyways that would have to occur in order to determine what potential effects there might be. So I'm happy to see what staff might come back with, but I think we have to take those particular items into account. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the regional bylaw, the first offense is $25,000, second is $50,000. Ours is 50 for a first and 100 or not more than 100 for the second. But, well, I'm just going to read what the bylaw says. It says, "No person shall discharge or cause or permit discharge of a substance to a storm sewer that is not storm sewer water or is uncontaminated." And the reason it's talking, and really that's lingo, some people will understand that, some people won't. But the bottom line is, when it may result in a hazard or other adverse effect to vegetation or the natural environment. And that's what we need to take care of here. So I also look forward to seeing what staff will come back with. It's not just, I mean, I'm not just pulling this out of a hat. It's not just the storm sewers. It's because we're at the headwaters, and we're also on the Oak Ridges Marine, and water that goes into our systems can adversely affect the natural environment, and we need to take care of that. Thanks.
Are there any other speakers, please? Using your tablets then? All in favor of the motion, please? That motion carries 7-1. Thank you. I'm sorry? We'll move on to our second motion, Councillor Kim. Moved by Councillor Kim, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Sure. Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Councillor Humphreys start. I think it's a co-sponsored.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kim. That's very nice. I appreciate this motion coming forward. Lots of things have changed over the last couple of weeks, some positive things in terms of the accountability and responsibility on the municipalities for all applications, development applications. I hope that my peers would allow the opportunities that were, so to speak, in the funnel to move forward and allow them to progress without having the 2-year freeze that we were looking at. So I hope that we have that support around the table. I think there's some developments that I really do believe to move forward, and I hope that we have that support around the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we put forward the 2-year freeze, I mean, I was the one pushing really hard to make sure that we implemented and used that tool that the province provided us. But I also said at the time that if Bill 139 ultimately does pass and does get implemented, which it has, and that happened on April 3rd, that I would have no problem removing that 2-year freeze to allow the applications to come forward into public planning and follow our regular procedure and process. And you know, considering, as I said, that Bill 139 is passed, it has enabled us as a municipality to have the authority to make the final call, to make the final decision on planning applications when they come to us. Previously, the OMB could overturn our decision. If you read the new legislation, that's changed. The local planning tribunal will not be overturning decisions. They'll be looking at it from a legal point of view of a yes or a no. They'll be looking at if this council decides no on an application and an applicant decides to appeal it to the tribunal, they will look at that and decide whether we followed our official plan and our local planning tools. And if we did, and it meets that, well, then that's the end of it. If we didn't, they'll just send it back for us for a second, basically second reading and a second look at, and say you need to reconsider this. So they will not have, at the end of the day, the authority to overturn our decision. And so therefore, I'm very comfortable in removing the 2-year freeze to allow this, because as I said, we've worked so hard as elected officials, not just us, but right across this province, to get this And now that we have it, we need to own up to it, stand up, and take the responsibility to make the decisions on behalf of our residents.
Councillor Thompson.
Similar to Councillor Maracas, municipalities have been advocating for a long time for more say in how their communities are built. Bill 139 has given us that ability, and with the establishment of the local planning appeal tribunal and the regulations being out, and all new planning applications are subject to those regulations, I'm quite comfortable removing the 2-year freeze.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for those anyway who are supporting the motion. I know that there's a reason why that there is a 2-year moratorium, but given that a year has passed and there's only a year left, and given that there are some valuable projects out there, it didn't make any sense for them to have to wait, and hence Councillor Humphreys and my motion. With that said, thank you, and look forward to the vote.
If there are no other speakers then, using your tablets, please. Voting in favor, voting against. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. There is no regional report. We'll move to our bylaws. New business, I'm sorry. Thank you. Councillor Marcus, new business. All right. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I think this is new business. I got an email from a resident, and it's not the first time it's been mentioned. It's nesting season, and
I'm sorry, it's what
It's
season?
nesting season?
Okay.
You didn't know it's nesting
Well,
season?
yeah, no, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Well, it isn't actually, but it will be shortly. And there's wildlife that likes to cross St. John's Side Road. We personally saved some turtles. There's ducks. There's all kinds. Anyway, is it possible that we could put a big sign up that says nesting season proceeds slowly, and maybe even put flashing signs on it? I don't know who I would ask for that, Mr. CIO. You get this one. I mean, it's going to be repeated every year, hopefully. Oh, Mr. Downey gets this one. Oh. So, I mean, this is going to happen every year. And again, it's the time of the world where we have to really start thinking about how to protect the natural environment. So have you got any ideas through you, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in my previous life with Richmond Hill, Oak Ridges, we had signs for frog crossing and turtle crossing. So I think that's what our biggest concern is the animals crossing the road, as opposed to most people that think of nesting, they think of birds. So I'm thinking that if you are interested in ensuring that people keep their eye on the road, that we could produce some signs that talked about turtles and frogs crossing, but if that's your intent.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good point, Mr. Downey. Could we say, well, I don't know, there must be another word than nesting that the public can understand. And I mean, it's not only, I mean, it's all kinds of wildlife that's crossing, well, it's ducks as well. So I don't know if you want to make a sign listing all of that, but it's particularly because of the babies. I think that was the point of this resident, because the animal.
Why don't we leave that in Mr. Downey's capable hands?
Okay. Well, are you okay with that? Do you need more direction? And the thing is, it needs to be done quickly if we can do it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to get into a debate here, but we could call it a wildlife crossing if that's your intent. We are concerned about the animals that are crossing the road, not necessarily the ones that are flying, right? So,
yes,
I haven't got a problem. We could talk about maybe a wildlife crossing or something on those signs. What I would like to know is if there's a particular location that you would like to see it, then maybe we'd go and take a look and you could point to me where exactly you think we need to put the signs.
Well, I'm certainly not an expert on this. Wildlife crossing is a great idea, thank you. I could ask the resident and send you an email, but I think it would be kind of at the beginning of both sides of the marsh, like well in advance of the beginning, so somebody can slow down. Slow down wildlife crossing.
Then if I can ask through Mr. Mayor, if you could have the resident send me an email, then perhaps I could go out, meet, and we could take a look and get this resolved, and then I could have the sign shop put something together.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Thompson.
Oh,
Nope.
Sven Lewin, could you please tell me how, if somebody calls in to make a complaint to bylaw over the weekend, do we have bylaw, I think we do have bylaw on the ground over the weekend, and how would that process unfold?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have an after-calls service, call center, who has our bylaw officer's schedule, and they call the first number, then they phone the second number if we have an officer on duty, but we don't have officers on duty 24/7. But we do have them on the weekend, not overnight at this point in time, but some day shifts and some afternoon shifts.
Thank you. And so if somebody called in late at night when there was no one on patrol or on duty, then the call would go to them the next day, go to someone the next day?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. We would get the information on the following day, and the bylaw officer would follow up with that individual. If it was an emergency, they'd be told to call the police.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Mayor, about 3-4 weeks ago, I guess, mentioned an initiative that was happening in Innisfil with them working with Uber to try and save some money from a regional transportation perspective. Just wondering if you had a chance to talk to the region about it and any feedback.
The region is working on coming back with a report, Councillor.
Okay, great.
Should be in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Humphreys, anything in new business? Councillor Tom. Councillor Kim, new business.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I noticed that reading the new edition of the Town magazine, and there was a schedule of events near the back, and the Christmas tree lighting ceremony is still called tree lighting ceremony for this coming December 2018. Just wondering why that was not. It's not called Christmas tree lighting ceremony, given that there seemed to have been sufficient time to have made that amendment before the publication.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly look into that. Do you know which magazine it was that you're referring to? Was it?
It was on the counter there in the Access Aurora desk, but I'll have a look and I'll direct that to you.
And then I'll do my best to get an answer for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Perry. Public service announcements, Councillor Perry. Oh, Councillor Maracus, you had a new business? Did you remember? Okay. It's usually just me. Councillor Perry, new PSAs. Councillor Kim, anything in the PSA world? Councillor Tom. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder, guess what? May 5th is around the corner, and the Aurora Farmers Market is going to be up and running on their opening day. And May 26th is their new and official grand opening for all the dignitaries in town. You'll be receiving a special invite to save the date. You'll be part of the opening day of their grand opening. So really excited. Lots of new things happening this year, and really looking forward to a full, vibrant market.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Thompson, PSAs.
Just a reminder that the Run for South Lake is around the corner, Sunday, April 29th, so just a few more weeks. Still plenty of time to register, and to my council colleagues, hopefully you've signed up for Team Aurora and you're still busy fundraising so that we can win the Mayor's Challenge once again.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You and I were today at the Alzheimer's Society of York Region. The federal government has given money. It's called the Art of Inclusion Project, and it's going to be done in conjunction with the McMichael Gallery. And that's, yes. And they also do Art of Inclusion, but the Alzheimer's Society. And I think one of the interesting things is that they're going to engage seniors from the community and train them to work with this project and the Alzheimer's Society. So it's going to be seniors helping seniors.
Thank you,
Do you have
Councilor
anything
Gardner.
to add to that?
It's $25,000. New Horizons grant.
Thank you.
Councilor Maracas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to remind everyone, this Friday, April 13th, is the microbrewery beer tasting evening being put on by the Optimist Club. And this year it will be at the Sark. And I guess that's because of the renovations going on at the Armory. So, and then also, I just wanted to let everyone know this past Sunday, the Tigers played their final playoff game, as unfortunately they did lose to Wellington Dukes. But I think they have nothing to be ashamed of, and I think that they should hold their heads up high because I think they did this town proud. They worked hard. They brought a level of excitement to the town when it comes to junior A hockey again. And then also this Sunday, I know, Mr. Mayor, you were there, and so was Councillor Tom. It was a very moving ceremony with all the players at center ice in a circle and a moment of silence and the bagpipes playing Amazing Grace. It was incredible. So I just wanted to say that I think the junior A Tigers did the town proud.
Absolutely. And on that note, if I may, congratulations to, Councillor Humphries.
Mayor Daw, I just wanted to add, to Councillor Tom's information. I'm sorry, Councillor Maracas, I'm sorry. Listen, I couldn't make Sunday, but it was on the news, and it was actually highlighted how beautiful the memorial and the tribute were for those boys, so good job.
And speaking of the Tigers, I think congratulations not only to the Tigers, but to Jim and Rita Thompson, who've done really an incredible job in terms of raising the profile of the Tigers in town and for all the work that they did to get the Tigers involved. So many thanks to them. We're going to go back and forth on this one? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let everyone know, I did have a small wager with Councillor Dunlop from Prince Edward County. He's in the ward for Wellington. We were going to wear the winning team's jersey at a council meeting, but we've decided with the recent tragedy that I'll be making a donation on behalf of the Wellington Dukes to.
Take it. Yep. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. And just because it was topical for that evening as well, at the hockey game, longtime volunteer for the Aurora Tigers, Vivian Bridgeford, was honored. And I think she's been with the team for like 40 plus years.
44.
42 or 43. There's a really great backstory as well. I think it's on the Tigers website. If it's not, it was just really neat. And certainly our community is made up of a lot of people like Vivian who, they volunteer their time and give back. And anyway, so just thought I'd mention that as well.
Thank you. Portraits of Giving is tomorrow night at Pfaff Motors. So if you haven't registered, you can go to merckphotography.com and have a look. Our Canada 150 mural is being unveiled this Thursday evening, Thursday the 12th at 6:30 over at the FLC. You might have seen it on the weekend covered with the tarp, no peeking. Cleanup day is on Saturday. So aurora.ca/waste and recycling. So come on out at 8 o'clock. It starts at 8 o'clock and there's a barbecue at noon. The home show, the Aurora Home Show is February, goodness gracious, Friday, April the 20th to the 22nd at the Sark. You can visit the Aurora Chamber website for more information on that. We start movies at the Sark, which is a precursor to Movies in the Park. And that's on April the 28th with Paddington Bear, Paddington 2.
We'll take our grandkids.
We'll take our grandchildren if you haven't seen Paddington. John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship is still open for nominations. The deadline is May the 1st. That's also on our website. Our spring and summer programs, although it snowed today, our spring and summer programs are now open for registration. So again, that's on our website. And just in a couple of weeks, May the 5th and May the 6th, the Sawyer Art Show here at Town Hall. Some amazing art. So if you haven't been to this art show, you have to come and see. All the way from the Optimus Youth Art Show right up to seniors. There's some incredible art that is here to be seen. And hopefully you buy some. That is it for PSA. Thank you very much, Council. Oh, wait a minute. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gardner. Quickly.
I'm really sorry, super fast. You mentioned Music in the Park on Wednesdays. So this year, because of the success at the Christmas market, the farmers market will have a pop-up farmers market on Wednesday nights at the Music in the Park. I think that's an amazing opportunity for them to raise their profile as well, and wanted to add that in with your information, Mayor Dahl.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and you're absolutely right about the Sawyer Art Show, but I'd also like to mention that there's art upstairs on the second floor all the time, and it's really quite lovely.
Thank you. Council, we have just one bylaw. So put that on the floor. Councillor Tom, thank you. Councillor Humphreys, using your pads, please. All in favor? That passes. Confirming bylaw, please, if someone would move that for me. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Peary, using your pads, please. Just hands. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Kim, Councillor Tom. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff.